Welcome to Small Arms Solutions. Today we're doing part one of a two-part series on the American Tactical Galeo rifle. In part one, we're going to be talking about today is the rifle itself, the magazines, disassembly, taking a look at the manufacturing of it, going over what the rifle is. In part two, we're going to be at the American Tactical manufacturing facility in Somerville, South Carolina, and we're going to be looking at the assembly of this rifle. We're going to start with the raw parts. We're going to go right through the demilling process to harvest the parts for reassembly. We're going to be going over the manufacturing of the receiver, initial assembly, test firing, then taken back apart, cleaned, and gone for parkerizing. So you're going to have an opportunity to see really the complexity of what it goes into this rifle from the manufacturing process, which is similar to that of any AK-type rifle. But first, I want to talk a little bit about what's been going on in the past. About, I'd say 2 or 3 years ago, IWI released the Galil Ace to the commercial market. What you see here is the Galil Ace in 7.62 by 39mm, taking the AK magazine. We've done previous videos on this one as well as the two other versions that they have. One being the 5.56mm and the other being the 7.62 by 51mm. And basically what we have here is an updated Galil rifle. This is more of a next generation. We have more use of synthetic materials. We have a lot better design as far as keeping the filth out, an FNC type style ejection port cover. Very nice hammer forged barrels, improved sights, 1913 rail. This is basically a modernized Galil. And interestingly enough, a lot of the design work on this was not done in Israel. It was actually done in Colombia. So this rifle's been doing very well for IWI in all three different calibers. I've done videos on all three of them, and this is the one I actually bought and I decided to keep because for some reason I really like this in 7.62 by 39mm caliber. It's really a Cadillac for as far as AKs is concerned. It was incredibly accurate. Not that the other ones weren't. This just tended to be my favorite of the IWI rifles. So what we're going to be talking about is the Galeo by American Tactical. Now, what's old is new again. So what we have here is the original Galil type rifle, military type rifle. And there's a lot of things to talk about with this rifle because it's very, very impressive. First, a little bit of a background on American Tactical. American Tactical is also owned by the same gentleman who owns Amchar Wholesale. Back while they were still in Rochester, New York, they had just started as American Tactical manufacturing AKs. They had bought a whole bunch of AK kits out of Yugoslavia, and they had fixed stock and the folding stock and so forth. And the first few batches they had some teething, they had some growing pains. So there was some issues with those first rifles. But once they got them worked out, they had moved from Rochester to Somerville, South Carolina, just due to the horrible climate for weapons manufacturers in New York State, which I'm a victim of as well. Well, that's why I'm here in the great state of Texas. Now, once they got down to Somerville, South Carolina, they got some people that they had hired. In fact, there's one gentleman and a very nice lady who did the manufacturing of those AK rifles, and the quality shot straight up. They were excellent rifles, very, very well built. American Tactical decided they wanted to do some of the work with the Galil rifles as well, because there's only been a couple attempts to manufacture Galil rifles from parts kits. One was with Century Arms, and I don't really want to say how that was very successful. There's a lot of issues with those rifles as far as the quality was concerned. They really were never thought of very highly. So American Tactical was definitely getting themselves into a rifle that was in demand, but they wanted one that was quality. Now, there's a lot of work. A lot of the spearheaded work was done by Chris Marzon at American Tactical, getting a lot of these things set up. And Tony DiCario had gone over to Israel and met with people over there, and he made arrangements to buy a good number of parts kits. Now, the Galil parts kit he got both the, as you see here, the wooden stock, and he also had the polymer stock. And he actually had to pay extra to keep all the parts together. So once a rifle was destroyed, all the parts from the same rifle would go into a bag. So all the serial numbers were matching. So he had to pay extra for that. Imported these kits here to the U.S. So basically, we had a parts kit, and then the lower receivers, or the receivers, were manufactured and designed at American Tactical and manufactured in their plant in South Carolina. The receivers are manufactured from a block of 4140 stainless steel. Cut to the configuration you can see here. As you can see, there's no grooves on the side, so this is more of the earlier type receiver of the Galil. Now, again, we have a basic system here. We have the 18-inch barrel. We have the flash suppressor. As you can see, this is all Parkerized. And this is going to be a very unique video in the fact that you're going to take a look at the inside of how these things are manufactured. Now, AK type rifles and these Galeo type rifles, these are not assembled. They are manufactured. Unlike AR-15s where you have all these parts and you assemble them into a rifle, which anybody can do, this is totally different. You basically have to have presses, you have to have tools, and you have to do a lot of things by hand. The parts are not just plug and play like an AR is. The barrels are pressed. You have to headspace by removing material from the barrel itself, the tip of the chamber. You have to press on the gas blocks drilled and pinned. The receivers, it's the same thing. So this takes a lot of work to build one rifle as far as what has to be done. And you're going to have a chance to see what it takes to build one of these rifles. What we've done is we've gone to American Tactical and we had spent a day with the gentleman who was in charge of building these rifles, who does an incredible job. The rifle that you see here, this rifle was built in that day. We went through the entire process to build this rifle to see exactly what went onto it. Everything from having the standard parts kits right down to the demilling of all the parts so you can have the parts that you're going to replace on here. This rifle here, the only parts that are made in the USA are strictly the receiver and the barrel. Everything else you see here came off of the parts kits from Israel. The parts are inspected. You're going to see everything from the initial inspection to the demilling of the parts, straight down to the assembly, test firing, disassembly, reassembly, and right down to the Parkerizing process. And all this is done in Summerville, South Carolina. It's a very, very impressive system, the way that they do it. And it's a very time-consuming. This is a product that American Tactical, they don't give these guys quotas, and this is how many you have to do at any specific time. They want these done right. So these rifles are not going to be out there in full volume. However long it takes to build them, they do. There's no, you can't skip steps with these just because of the way the assembly is done. There's only been a couple other YouTubers who've done any work with these in inspection and a review. Michiko, I certainly recommend you take a look at Michiko's review of this as well. But the fit and finish on this is beautiful. You see no machining marks. Everything's as smooth as can be. We're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to take the sucker right to the range and we're going to see how it shoots. Well, this rifle has had a lot of rounds through it due to the fact that it's something that's very, very new and something I've actually I had a blast shooting this thing. I probably got about 2,000 rounds through this. Ammunition mostly being Black Hills and Gecko. No malfunctions of any sort. The Black Hills ammunition, we had a velocity of 2,993 feet per second, and the Gecko was 3,067. The Gecko ammunition tend to be a little bit hotter than the Black Hills. Now, the group. Now, if I wouldn't have been there to see this group being shot, I would not have believed it. This group was a .915-inch group shot by Henry Chan. Now, again, if I wouldn't have been there to see it, he got this group at .915 inches shooting iron sights. So we have as you can see from the target, it's there. I was there when he shot this. So that, Henry's he's got eagle eyes, but you can't get that kind of a group, even though how good you are, if the rifle's not capable. So the best group we got was .915 inches at 100 yards with this rifle. Taking a look at the rifle comes with the TAPCO magazines. This is for 922R compliance. Now, TAPCO, I have to say, I've always been very, very skeptical on. I've had very few TAPCO magazines that I can ever say were reliable, that I hadn't had issues with. Well, during my testing, I had 5 of these, and I had had no malfunctions whatsoever. I also had some surplus steel magazines, which I tested with as well. These are 35 rounds. These are 30 rounds. Now, again, for 922R compliance, you should have the Tapco magazines. So we're going to take this thing apart and take a look at the inside. Now, as the rifle comes, it does not come with a bipod. This bipod came from another manufacturer. I had it reparkerized so it would look nice on this new rifle. But it does not come with this, nor does the Israeli-style sling. This is an Israeli sling that came from a different place as well. Looking at the way the cocking handle is on here, it goes upward instead of out. The way this charging handle was designed, it wasn't designed to be yanked like that because your finger will scrape on top of the barrel. It was designed to run over the top like so, and pull back like that. And it works very well. It's very easy. Now, typical Galeo, you have your AK-style safety, but you also have the ambi safety on the left-hand side. This is a little bit awkward because it's a little bit stiffer than trying to use it, but it takes a little bit to get used to. You have a guard in front of the magazine catch. Magazines cam in place just like that of an AK. And we also have a side-folding stock. And the rifle will shoot with the stock side-folded. Now, in reality, this is not how you want to shoot this rifle. This is not ideal at all. It's very difficult to hit anything with any kind of accuracy with it. This is merely a way to store. To actually employ this rifle, you would pull open and you would engage your target from the shoulder position. Now, for as far as sights are concerned, one of the things that really adds to the accuracy of a Galeo rifle is the fact that you have a significantly longer sight radius than you do that of an AK. So that helps you out with accuracy as well. The longer barrel, it's a much better quality barrel than you get with a standard AK. You do have a peep sight that is that of an M16, where you have a shorter range and a longer range. And when you look towards the front, you can see we have another flip-up sight here. Now, this would normally have tritium vials in it. God knows how old this kit is, so the tritium vials no longer work. But this would be your tritium sights. The front sight is adjustable for windage as well as elevation. You have an AK-style front sight, but you also have a flip-up sight, which would also have a tritium vial. Again, like the rear sight, God knows how old this parts kit was, probably from the 70s or 80s, so the tritium sights no longer exist. However, you can buy new ones. I'm aware there are some aftermarket places where you can buy the newer front sights with the tritium. Now, you also have a bayonet lug on here, and you have a standard A1 style, M16 A1 style flash suppressor. When we take it apart, you will see we do have an AK style operating mechanism on here, but you'll see the front is very similar to that of the Valmet. So that's really what we have here is a combination of AK, Valmet M76, and M16. It sort of took the best of all worlds to put them into one gun. Now, for disassembly of this rifle, check to make sure no brass, no ammo. We push inward on the recoil action spring. Just like an AK, push in, pull to the rear, pull back the bolt group. And we have a standard AK style bolt with the standard AK style piston mechanism. Now you'll also see we have the carbon cutters on the front here, or on the front of the operating rod as well, which is same as it's done on the M76 Valmet. And now you have your gas tube, which will come right out. And this is as far as you would have to go to do any kind of disassembly. So as you can see, the machining on the receiver is extremely well. We do have some grease in this one. This is probably the only guns that I really put any grease on are AKs, M1 Garand type styles. You don't use grease on AKs, but this is a good G96 type of a grease. We do not. This is not a chrome-plated bore. This is the QPQ type. Everything as you see here, this is a brand new receiver. These are all modified AK fire control groups. Now this is the exact same hammer and trigger and everything that came with the Galeo, the full auto, but everything was cut back to and modified to be semi-automatic only. So you have all the same parts for the semi-automatic rifle. Looking up here, this wood is in very, very good condition as well, similar to that of an AK. When you look at your gas block, you have here, as you can see, your bayonet lug. You can see it's drilled and pinned in 2 places. We have inside of the gas block here is chrome plated. And then we have the adjustments for windage, and then we have the hood. And you can see use an AK sight tool to adjust the front sight post. And you can see the rear sight is very well made. Now this receiver cover fits on as tight as can be. It does not move. so it keeps it zero very, very well. Now for reassembly, drop the gas tube. You have dovetails that slides right in place. Now, when this rifle was assembled, when I was watching James do it, all this stuff was hand fit to make sure everything just fit perfect. So there was no slap, there was no play. This rifle is as solid. This, in fact, compared to the recent Israeli rifle that I did, it was a pre-ban rifle. This rifle actually is far more tight in tolerances. It's much more solid. There's no wiggle to it whatsoever. So now we're going to insert the operating rod bolt carrier. Have your action spring. Insert. Now again, this is relatively tight as well. So there, that's all we have to it. So this is the end of part one. Part two, we're going to have the factory tour, which is not necessarily going to be a factory tour, but it's basically going to walk you through many of the different stages. What I'm also hoping that video is going to show you is the amount of time and effort it takes to manufacture these, which is why you see them as being more expensive than a lot of ARs, because the amount of hand fitting that goes into them. I hope you enjoyed this part one of the video on the American Tactical Galeo. And in a couple days, we'll have part two up. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment. I'll try to get back to you. Please like, subscribe, and even better, share. Thank you.